So hey guys, today we're back with the Snake Eyes list I kinda yoinked. Well, generally speaking, most Snake Eye decks, well, we don't care about the extra deck for this one, but most of the Snake Eye main deck looks similar-ish to this, right? So the thing you might notice is the pure lack of backrow removal, just in general, all over the place. So today I'm going to somewhat prove to you guys that Snake Eye sucks ass, just relatively. So if we're just considering right now, it might be like kind of strong. I don't know, it's pretty popular at least. Can't really deny that, but the deck just has so many super significant weaknesses that other decks don't necessarily have to deal with, specifically with other like stronger tier 1 decks. Because yeah, I wouldn't say this is like a tier 0 deck. If we're going by like just how good the deck is, I wouldn't quite say it's tier 0 in that regard either. So just for example, if we just do a random hand here, okay, let's say we max E against this hand. Okay, you only have max E to max E back, and how many draws till we get a hand trap that does something? So that's just Ash, Droll, useless. Would you Droll yourself at this point? And then Nibiru here. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. On the 14th summon, we can nib, assuming our opponent hasn't put up a single monster negate here because we don't even have imperm to like do an imperm or like I guess effect veiler. Effect veiler is not even in this list, so we can't do effect veiler Nibiru. So that doesn't really work either. But yeah, in this case we just die to a maxi because we can't really make anything in minimal summon, so very bad against Maxi. What would you do against Maxi here? And keeping in mind that if you do like play into the Maxi somewhat, just by having a Maxi yourself, you are increasing the odds of your opponent having the out in this case for Maxi because your opponent's also drawing off of your summons, right? So if your opponent has like 8 or 10 cards, because that's about how many summons it'll take for you to actually be able to do something, right? So here we have telegraphed Diabell Star, so we'll probably send Sinful Subversion, Spells of Subversion here for the draw off of Wanted. So Diabell Star effect, send this, then we'll add Original Sin, that's 2, and so far we have nothing. We'll probably want to special summon Snake Eye Ash no matter what off of Original Sinful Spoils. So the other alternative is that we normal summon Poplar to grab original Sinful Spoils, and then summon Snake Eye Ash. So that's also doable. But we have to still somewhat loop Poplar and Ash a little bit to get into nothing, because if we make a Link 2, it doesn't do anything. None of these Link 2s do anything if you make them on the first turn. So you would have to end on at least what? In order to get 1 point of interaction here. I guess the best one you might be able to go for is Apollosa, just raw making an Apollosa. But that's still like 4 or 5 summons. So your opponent, if they draw an Imperm at any point, they can just hold it for the Apo and they're fine, right? Considering this is like a 3 of, pretty likely to just draw into that. Or like any number of things. And you're just doing significantly worse, right? So yeah. If we do another hand, pretty whatever, I guess, right? We have Ash Blossom here. We have Called By. If we were to actually just Ash Wanted Seeker of Sinful Spoils, you can't even Called By it. That's funny. And your only response is Ash Blossom Drift Spring, opened Oak here, doing whatever. So the way you play against Maxi in general, aside from like opening Called By Ash, you don't have a play for this, right? So if we go to Tearlament instead, it also has the same shifter weakness, but The difference here that's really huge is the only summon that you need to do is Kikelos, grab Salik, and then you can just play on your opponent's turn instead, because it's pretty consistent to just mill like one of the millers or another one of the tier names. And you still end on like 2, 3, maybe 4-ish interactions. Not necessarily negates, but interactions. So you can mill some millers, and then if your opponent is playing some kind of graveyard deck, those are effectively almost negates. For example, like if you were playing Orcus, we can shuffle back your harp, and then that might as well have been negate harp, although like harp is still technically usable, but you know, this is also like a one card combo technically, right? So just normal Rhino sending whatever, making Kikelos, and then you still have 4 cards in hand, be hand traps, and at least 2 of them likely are, if not just one. So you're looking at like maybe actually 4 to 5 pieces of interaction, and you only go even on your maxi. So that's how that goes. So yeah, that's a lot more miserable, and you technically wouldn't even need to play Called by the Grave in tier because of this. And the other reason I think you don't want to technically play like Called by Crossout to an extent is not only because they're bad mills, but because since this was like tier 0, Called buying your own cards was actually kind of hurtful, you know, it was kind of able to also hurt yourself depending on like the situation. But also you have a lot more interaction in the graveyard with like Fairy Tale Snow and then your 2 shufflers. So with Promethean Princess, we only have 1 interaction here, so in comparison to tier, this is already weaker. And there are several other decks which this can arguably be called weaker. For example, Crossout used to be at 3, remember that, fellas? So because of that, the Adventure deck would probably just dunk on this if we pulled one of those Adventure Tenyi decks from way back when, right? So triple Crossout easily gets rid of like any of these hand traps, and we also can set up like early Baron, early whatchamacallit, we can summon Griffin early, right? And then our opponent will not be able to do anything here. So that's a lot more effective into hand traps than what you can do with, well, more hand trap resistant than what we have here with just Snake Eye Diabellstar. But yeah, got kind of sidetracked here, but let's get to deck building. So with the insane lack of spell trap removal, there's only one threat that I am super going to care about, and it is specifically this card to an extent, right? So we have IP Masquerena. The deal with IP Masquerena is that if our opponent has IP and they use it to make a link monster, that that monster cannot be destroyed by your opponent's card effects. So the simplest way to deal with like IP or a monster summoned by IP is to solemn it. So if we solemn it, we should be fine. So we'll just get our Solemn Judgment and Solemn Strike. We're going to play 3 of each. Shouldn't be that big of a deal. And then after this, go check this out. Mirror, Force. This is all we need. Okay. And we have Radiant Mirror Force. That's awful. We have Blazing Mirror Force. Destroys many attack position monsters your opponent controls as possible, and you do take damage equal to half the combined original attack of those destroyed monsters, then inflict damage to your opponent equal to the damage you took. Not sure if we really want to do that, but whatever. Should be fine. Drowning. Quaking. Storming. Blazing. And then here. Mirror Force Launcher, once per turn during your main phase, you can discard 1 monster, add 1 Mirror Force from your deck or graveyard to your hand. We don't really want to play any monsters, so can't really run this. But yeah, we need some more cards. So guess we'll figure that out. So next we grab Boo Boo Game, I guess. Should be fine. And do you see where this is going? We're literally just putting in copies of essentially Mirror Force. And I guess here we might as well do like a torrential as well. Because torrential does help, believe it or not. And not enough Mirror Forces to really just go pure Mirror Force here. But the general idea is, what the hell are you going to realistically do against this? So with that previous deck, right? If I set 5 and pass with a deck like this, where we just have like a bunch of Mirror Forces and all that, okay, what can we do here? Summon Baron to start popping the back row? Well, no, Solemn, right? And even if you make access code with IP, we can Solemn this as well. So that's done. And that's gone as well, right? And we probably want draw power then, and that's going to help, I guess. So we specifically don't play Desires, but we get Extrav, and then I guess we can fill up the extra deck with literally anything. Doesn't matter. Could be, just some Blue Eyes monsters if we really want. Epic. And boom, that's 15, whatever. Throw in Prosperity as well. Duality. I don't think we want necessarily to play cards of Demise. But what do you guys think the win condition for this deck is? Well, it's simple. The win condition is deck out. Sometimes things can just be that simple, And we'll grab Synchro Zone, probably worth considering, or something else. We essentially just need to stop our opponent from attacking somehow. Don't really want to lose too many life points because we're running this card here. Radiant Mirror Force. We're not running this, right? Maybe we consider running this as well. Could use it at this point. And then Dark Mirror Force, not that useful. But because we're running Blazing Mirror Force, well, we might take quite a bit of damage from this. We take half the combined original attack. That could be a lot, considering we're also running like Solemns. So that's a little bad to an extent, right? So just having a way to stop attacks might not be like that bad. Just in general here, as you guys can see, right? None of these back row, right? None of them will be removed by our opponent in general, and then we draw 2 here. And our win condition is deck out because our opponent simply will not know what we are doing, right? And because of that, if our opponent were to try anything, they'll probably lose. Just straight up. Because of this, though, I guess Barret Flames, because we're lowering our life points a bit. And that should be fine. But yeah. What can you do here? If I set literally 3 copies of, well, it can't really be Mirror Force, but let's say I set 3 copies of Storming Mirror Force and you don't have an Omni Negate here. What are you gonna do about this? All of your interactions are monster related or based on monsters. Just interacting with monsters essentially with Snake Eye. So you have no way to interact with anything here, and all of your main deck cards are going to be hand traps and the like, so you don't have anything to deal with this, right? So yeah, this is just kind of miserable for you, I suppose, but if you were playing, for example, Purrely actually is a bit different. because this is not hard once per turn. You have pretty memory effect. So you can use this to start stripping away at my back row pretty easily, and you can just make any purrely XYZ with this eventually, and then you'll be able to remove all of my back row, and the removal is non-destruction, so it can never trigger something like a boo boo game. So you're threatening that. You're also consistently threatening Zeus. So against back row, you can see that Purrely is going to be way better against like some trash ass deck like this compared to Snake Eye, whereas Snake Eye actually loses to this. And Purrely actually can play a little bit, like just a little bit, right? A little bit under Shifter, or like effects like that. It is not impossible to play under, right? With Snake Eye, you need to get like how many monsters onto the field to set up a single negate under like some kind of relatively bad situation, like Shifter, for example. If we just consider, in this case, we have no graveyard, what is the only play we'd be able to do? Because Promethean Princess isn't going to be able to be put into the graveyard, so no point in looking at that. And IP, I guess you could still make IP, but it doesn't really accomplish much because, yeah, you're not really going to have a good reason to put IP into the back row. So might as well summon whatever uh, on your current turn, or go IP for Unicorn. So you have to put either 3 or 4 bodies onto the field, which is impossible under Shifter. Even if you're playing like the cash stuff, it's not really possible to put 4. Well, unless you were to link off Unicorn, Birth back Unicorn, and then make Apollosa, I guess that kind of works. It's pretty unlikely though. You need to open normal summon, and then you need to open Bonfire, or you could open Snake Eye Ash to special summon Poplar, right? So, something like that. It's not very likely, and you would specifically need to open Unicorn and not Birth, which you're running equal amounts of Birth to equal amounts of Unicorn, so it's mostly relying on the Unicorn here. And even if you do make an Apollosa here early, your opponent is playing Shifter, so there's a good chance your opponent's just on cash and will just summon a guy, run over your Apo immediately. Or if you make IP Unicorn, uh, same thing, runs over immediately, and then they just continue play for free. And you cannot maxi them, you cannot effect failure. You only have the option of essentially ashing or imperming your opponent here, which is what you're risking here. And you also used some of your starters that you could have used on the free turn, right? And by free turn, I mean the turn you're finally free from Shifter, assuming you have like enough hand traps that work under Shifter to stop your opponent from setting up either a board or just winning the game on the spot, right? Early can still end on uh, Expertly Noir, and this new card just also exists. I guess kind of worth mentioning. This card can just, if it has Sleepy Memory, this card can target 2 cards and return those cards to the hand, so I'll easily set up OTK or set up like a way to make Zeus, so very big difference considering we can have literally like reasonably a 5 activation Zeus with Purrely here. So yeah, just simply because of Purrely's more I guess more flexible like effects, and just how flexible the deck is in general in comparison to Snake Eye. You could argue that Purrely is actually better than Snake Eye currently. I don't know like if this would be the case for Fire King Snake Eye, but for pure Snake Eye, the back row weakness is just really bad. To the point where if we were just playing a billion board wipes in the back row kind of like this, right? We can win because our opponent will simply not know what we're doing. They'll try to combo, right? and try to set up OTK lines or whatever, and they will end up losing. So I guess Lord of the Heavenly Prison could make sense here to make it even harder to remove. So this plays around access code. Yeah, just to throw that in there. But yeah, in this case, what is our opponent going to be able to do against this? Realistically, nothing, right? You will simply just lose because you don't know what I'm playing, and you'll have special summon some guys from your main deck, and that will put my card count at in the main deck higher than yours, and there's no like recycling that's going to realistically happen or save you. So yeah, you will actually just lose to pure Mirror Force if you're playing Snake Eye. Like, tell me this wouldn't work on you. Like, you just full combo, your opponent sets a bunch of cards, passes back to you. You try to put up uh, enough cards to lethal your opponent, and then your opponent just literally activates dead ass normal Mirror Force. I'm pretty sure that there's a very high probability that you just lose to this. Because then all of a sudden you're getting Mirror Force left and right, so we have in this case 2 copies of Mirror Force. We have Blazing, Drowning, and then, you know, Torrential again, Mirror Force again. Every single card I'm drawing is essentially like another board wipe. So how many times can you actually rebuild your board? So just from like I don't know, like if I Torrential, like when you're trying to set up lethal, then you're left with nothing, right? And then here we can Blazing you, we can Drowning you. Then I guess we'll probably want to save some Blazings for later. Might remove Radiant Mirror Force honestly for something maybe better. But general idea is every single one of these Mirror Forces will probably board wipe you, or you just can't lethal on the turn, right? So even if you were to put stuff in defense position, we're still fine, even if you try to play around the Mirror Force that way, because we have a lot of Mirror Forces. And there's just no feasible way that you can win the game. I would think not, right? And eventually, you won't have any monsters to attack with, and GG. It can be as simple as that. And yeah, once that happens, you'll just start drawing unplayable cards like Wanted, Original Sin, and you won't have any targets for them. And at that point, you will begin to lose to deck out, because here we have like, how many is this? I think that's 10, right? 20, 25 board wipes. So yeah, after a certain point, you're going to run out of monsters that you can summon, and we will literally wait for a deck out because that is the win con. So you summon a guy from the main deck, you'll probably lose. The only card we have to draw is Pot of Extrav, so yeah, that's how it'll go. Not much else to say, and I guess logically we could also throw in copies of Evenly Matched to run you out of resources even faster. Like just one is probably enough. Doesn't super matter, but yeah. There's probably a better way to build this, but just conceptually, it, this already makes sense, yeah? Like, it doesn't take a super genius to tell you how bad this deck is. But it is a fact that that deck can win, going first or second against Snake Eye relatively consistently, and in fact, like, if we actually go back to this deck is actually ridiculously consistent. Like, draw 5, evenly, Blazing, draw 2, Storming, Blazing, Lord of the Heavenly Prison, Solemn Judgment, evenly. Yeah, it's pretty strong here, yeah? So here we would only need to set probably one or two copies of Mirror Force, and then we just chill with Lord of the Heavenly Prison. Depends how much we want to commit, if we want to use the evenly. If we are going second in this case, we'd get one more card, and then we can evenly you for your life savings, and then activate Lord of the Heavenly Prison. We have Solemn, in case any Nans, and then we have these copies of Mirror Force, right? And also Ferret Flames. To essentially try to, like, board wipe, right? I think there probably are better options. I think Ferret Flame kind of sucks, actually. But we can definitely figure something out to replace Ferret Flames. Like, without a question, right? We could even start throwing in, like, Bottomless. And that's not too bad, I guess. So, yeah. Just in general, though, what what would you do if you were playing Snake Eye and all of a sudden you had to face this deck? I mean, probably lose, I guess. Well, I guess this deck in particular, Fair Flames, is kind of bad. So after this deck gets a little bit more optimized, what would you do? Very intriguing, yeah. So I guess we can leave it at that. And there are other strategies equally as bad as this that can relatively consistently beat Snake Eye, like actually just dead ass burn. Burn has a decent chance of winning. And of course, like there's certain cheese FTKs that work, like Nurse Burn. Literally, what will you do about Nurse Burn? Did you open Imperm? Did you open? Yeah, it's just Imperm, really. If you didn't open Imperm, I guess you just auto lose, probably. And yeah, I think that's everything. So yeah, you'll lose to Burn. You can lose to potentially Final Countdown, a full dead ass Mirror Force deck. So is this what your tier 1 or strongest deck looks like? Because I think that any deck that loses to this is pretty, like, mid overall. And I'll tell you what, Tearlaments does not lose to this. Tearlaments can recycle stuff, so they can start recycling, like, Kaleido, and they can threaten Zeus. They have, like, ways to do that, you know? So, in this case, you're not really threatening Zeus, like, against this deck. Just to be honest, right? But like with Kaleido and also Field Spell, they'll be able to recycle them and rip you a new one if you try to pull something dumb like this, right? You're pretty much guaranteed to lose. And there is also the alternative win con of just not dealing with the mirror forces as well and winning a different way, like burn or deck out. In case of tier, they can deck you out by putting back the millers and then, well, assuming they're full power, right? Putting back the millers and then milling them again, and then they shuffle back their tier cards, and then you deck out they don't. Pretty simple. So yeah, that's all I got for you guys today, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye.